Vegetarian dishes? I thought vegetarians
wrong with
were
that?
usually teetotalers, weren't they?
Why?
Well, I
makes
just
think
got
that?
the impression
You
they
ever
are.
known any vegetarians?
I steer well clear of them.
Good morning, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry. You're listening to the two mics on the warm-up on TalkSport. We've got the ambulance crew on standby, the defibrillators at the ready, and copious supplies of smelling salts in the studios, because it is, of course, the 228th Merseyside Derby. I've never seen Porky Parry quite so excited. We're talking to former Everton defender Matt Jackson ahead of the 12:30 kickoff, and we'll be bringing you all the atmosphere with Beaky up there at Anfield as well. 08717 223344. Also coming up on the show, we've got the 1 minute moan, and there is plenty to moan about, believe me. And of course, we'll get an update on Porky's stolen chair scenario. You're listening to the two mics with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on TalkSport. This is TalkSport. We are the two mics on the warm-up. It's a very, very exciting day. It's the Merseyside Derby. Everton taking on Liverpool at Anfield. They haven't won for 18 years. Mr. Parry's here. A very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
Yeah, very good morning, Mike. I'm not going to say rabbits, OK?
Please don't.
I've been asked not to.
Thank
it's
God
not
for
after
that.
all 1 minute past midnight, but
It's
it is
not.
April the 1st.
Yeah, and it has gone on. I mean, we have gone through the morning
We
pretty
certainly
much.
have.
And also, you've only got about 55 minutes left for April Fool's,
Exactly.
Because if you don't play an April Fool's joke on somebody by midday, then the joke is on you.
I won't be playing any jokes at all, don't worry.
Thank God
and
for
there
that.
will be no joking at Anfield as well. One thing I want to say is, because, you've built the openers to the show up into me getting all sort of out of control.
Well,
and
you are going to be
fizzing with
in
excitement
a
and all that.
state of excitement,
Well,
aren't you?
I'd like to put the record straight.
Yeah.
I regard this as any other game.
No, rubbish.
It's any other game.
No.
When you play at the level that these teams play at, you don't suddenly say to yourself, there's an extra point or an extra 2 points of beating Liverpool at
There's
Anfield.
bragging rights. Are you telling me that
I don't brag.
If Everton beat Liverpool today at Anfield, are you telling me that you would not live off that for the rest of the year?
I have mutual respect for all teams that we go to play and all teams who come to Goodison to play us.
So you're not expecting a victory then?
I'm expecting a victory.
Talking it down. You're already talking it down.
I'm expecting a victory, but I'm not going to make out that it's the greatest thing that's ever happened since a rocket took off and landed on the moon, because I am not going to make out that it was not expected. I expect Everton to win today.
You don't really.
Because I think the level of progress that Mr. Koeman has made with the squad, despite the fact that we are massively depleted.
I admire your staunch support of your club. I admire your optimism. I admire your kind of your total and utter dependence upon Everton and their success.
Yes.
However, I think you are, I'm afraid, chasing the wrong ball.
No, I don't think I am. And actually, I am going to reveal to our millions of listeners that you, in a charity bet which we indulge in each week, have actually, and this is, I think, is true and accurate. I'm not accusing you of anything except
let's hope
gross misjudgment.
Let's hope so.
You've predicted Liverpool to win 3-0.
I have.
That is a ridiculous prediction.
Why?
It's not going to happen.
Well, how do you know?
And it's very, very unlikely.
How do you know it's not going to happen?
Well, I can tell you now, it's not.
What was the score last year?
The score last year, which one?
In the same fixture at Anfield last year, around about April of 2016.
It wasn't 3-0.
No, it was 4-0.
It wasn't 3-0.
It was 4-0.
The difference between the teams now compared to then is massively. We're talking
Everton
about a different vista.
Everton are much depleted by injury.
Anyway.
Martin O'Neill. What do you mean anyway? See, you always say anyway when you know you've lost the argument.
No.
You've forgotten that it was 4-0 last year, haven't you?
I didn't forget at all.
You have forgotten.
I did not forget.
Yes, you have.
Now, what I was going to say to you was, you can expand an awful lot of time and energy saying what is going to happen.
Or even expend.
I think probably we should wait and see what happens.
I agree.
And then the real statements of what were intent will be carried out.
OK, well, in that case, let us not talk about the game at all.
Well, we have to talk about the game.
Starts.
They're ridiculous.
And that would be kind of a ridiculously bad radio show ahead of the Merseyside Derby.
No, what I'm saying is...
But let's talk about something else then. Let's talk instead about the agreement that was made yesterday between Everton Football Club and Liverpool City Council, which is headed, if I'm not mistaken, by an Evertonian.
That's right. Yeah,
the Evertonian at the top of Liverpool City Council.
Well, he's not the top. He's the mayor, isn't he? He's not chief executive.
Well, he is the head of Liverpool City Council.
He's not even head of the council.
No, he is the head of the council because he is an elected mayor, is he not?
Yes.
He's not a ceremonial mayor,
No.
so he is like Sadiq Khan in London. Sadiq Khan is the head of the London council.
Yeah, but
basically.
actually, in the constitution of these local authorities, it is a titular title.
No,
to be
the chief
honest.
executive is a civil servant.
I know, but
the
head
mayor
of the council
is the elected head of the organisation.
The head of the council, that's the man who's head of the majority council group, is in fact the leader of the council, not the mayor.
Okay, so you say the mayor has no power then?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying he's influential because he's a good public servant. government. Therefore, we take notice of what he says.
And he is elected.
And he's elected.
So
and he's a very even-handed man.
He carries... Well, you say he's even-handed, but, I mean, I wonder how even-handed people will think he is when they discover that he has agreed to finance 300 million quid's worth of taxpayers' money to back the Bramley Moor dock building, which is going to happen for Everton's new football ground. What happened to this guy Merseyside, who's meant to be Mr. Moneybags? Why is he not coming up with the money?
You're misleading everybody.
No,
all they're doing is offering a guarantor role.
Why?
A guarantor role. Excuse me, because anybody who goes out and borrows £300 million, including the people who are going to put the Everton Stadium together, have to go to the banks and say, by the way, if it all explodes and blows up, if the sea levels rise, as you say they're going to do 6 feet, we can't build the stadium, you have to have a guarantor to pay the money back. So everybody knows that. Don't you know anything about business?
Well, I do, actually.
No, you don't,
but what I do know...
The last 2 years,
what I do know as well, I know that you are clearly not going to be able to defend this one because you are completely blinded by your loyalty to Everton. The bottom line is, if I go to the Building Society and take out a mortgage to buy a house, they don't say, don't worry if you can't afford to pay the mortgage, guys, because we'll guarantee it for you because you don't want to losing your house.
No, but you will have a guarantor to the loan. You'll have a guarantor to the loan.
No, you won't have a guarantor to the loan.
If an 18-year-old kid goes along and borrows £2,000 to buy his first car, he can't do that unless his mum or dad say we are guarantor to the loan.
That's correct.
Obviously,
that is correct.
It's
not the case if you buy a house.
It's a dodgy risk.
That's not the case if you buy a house.
It's a case if you do anything.
No, it isn't.
Why don't you leave the business things to me?
Oh, so you don't want to talk about Everton getting 300 million quid's worth of a sort of safety net from the taxpayer? Why not?
What I would like to talk about is why Roy Keane is incredibly rude to other people in the industry.
So you don't want to talk about this then?
Well, you know, when he spits out the words that, you know, I don't care.
You've got in for Roy Keane, haven't you?
I don't care what Ronald Koeman says. I couldn't care less what Ronald Koeman thinks, what Ronald Koeman says. Ronald Koeman only happens to be, you know, a man of immense style, dignity, quality, skill and class in the world of football. And if Roy Keane bought the...
Well, I don't suppose that anyone would argue with that. I don't. But it seems to be a very unseemly row all round. I don't think anyone's coming out of it looking very, very good, to be honest.
If Roy Keane would like to go and buy the Ronald Koeman coaching manual, then he could go back to a club in the Premier League somewhere and do a half-reasonable job instead of having to have actually retired, even if it's on a temporary basis, from managing football clubs in this country with a track record which could not be described as successful.
No, that's true. And Martin O'Neill, on the other hand, you would say has a patchy track record, I suppose, at club management level because he's done terribly well in some places and not so well in others. However, both Martin O'Neill and Roy Keane, and included in that argument Ronald Koeman, I think are all bringing the game slightly into disrepute because at the end of the day, there are international breaks. Players do go and play for their countries because they want to and they can get injured. And I think it's unseemly for any club manager to have a go at any international manager because nobody's trying deliberately to get anybody injured.
All I would say is Martin O'Neill and Ronald Koeman are actually at loggerheads over the handling of a player. So I accept that they are two managers who have different capacities in the game, one international, one club, who are at odds. I accept that, and they're to and froing. Roy Keane to suddenly add his, tuppence halfpenny worth by being dismissive about Mr. Koeman.
Halfpenny worth.
Yeah, he's just a cheap, ignorant and
but why are you having a go at Martin?
Jive.
Well, I don't think it's any more unseemly than the one Martin O'Neill made out.
No,
where he says the master tactician of the blame game. That's not very nice either.
Yeah, that's what managers say about each other when you've got the club versus country situation. What I would really like to point out is that Tony Cascarino, who's occupying the very seat I'm now sitting in,
you're jumping about all over the place. You've lost every argument so far.
For the past 3 hours, puts his list of where does Lukaku rate in my top 20 strikers from both clubs.
He puts him at number 11, which is about right.
Rubbish.
Of course he should be number 11.
On what basis is this list put together?
Are you saying that Lukaku is better than Kenny Dalglish?
I'm saying of the current players in both the Everton Liverpool squads, Lukaku's the outstanding player. If you don't believe me, go look at the Premier League scoring charts.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right, because in fact that is exactly where Tony Cascarino has put Lukaku, the first player of today's game who is playing today, was mentioned in his top 20, is Romelu Lukaku at number 11, because everybody's in the top 10 is no longer playing for either team. That's the point. So Lukaku is, in fact, by his definition, the best player currently playing for either Liverpool or Everton.
Despite the fact that I, of course, have been a lifelong Evertonian, to put Ian Rush as number 5 ahead of Luis Suarez is wrong.
He's behind Luis Suarez.
Of course he is. Luis Suarez is number 2 in Tony's list, and Ian Rush is 5. Yeah. Ian Rush holds the record by a mile of scoring 25 goals in derby matches in 36 games. That's almost won a game.
The whole point about these kinds of lists, though, and I don't know why you get so worked up about it, is that it's Tony Cascarino's list, it's Tony Cascarino's opinion.
Yeah.
If you want to pick it apart, then give us your list.
Andy Gray, number 19.
Well, why don't you give us your top 10? That's what I asked you for earlier.
No, I'm not getting into this game of his list, my list. No.
Well, I would judge his list to be far more accurate than yours.
Why?
He's a former professional footballer. He's a former striker.
Okay.
He knows what he's talking about.
Yes.
And he's talk absolute cableros.
Okay, I'm not going to, get down to... I'm not going to get down to the Roy Keane level and say that Tony Cascarino achieved in football...
Well, Tony Cascarino, who played in many, many clubs, including Marseille.
I didn't want
France,
to get into his moderate achievements.
As an Irish international.
When this country couldn't find a role for Tony Cascarino, he went off and baked a few baguettes in France for a couple of years.
He also writes... He and I have actually something in common because...
Oh, really? Well, that doesn't surprise me.
He writes a column for The Times, as indeed I did when I was in New York. You, of course, could only grub around in the rather filthy, disgusting part of the gutter in which tabloid newspaper executives inhabit.
I'm not even going to respond to that.
And I'll be talking to my good friend Peter Conradi from the Sunday Times later on.
Oh yeah, Peter. Oh, Peter's your good friend, is he?
He is, yeah.
You like being friends of the Sunday Times execs, do you?
Yeah, I do. Well, because of course I used to write for the Sunday Times, something you have also never done.
What a load of drivel.
Yeah.
Andy Gray won 2 Premier League titles, but can only make 19th on his list of 20.
Well, that's his choice, isn't it? I don't see why you've got it in for him. I don't think anyone can argue that Kenny Dalglish is number 1. Can you argue with that?
I mean...
Can you argue with Kenny Dalglish as number 1?
I wouldn't argue with that.
Can you argue with Luis Suarez as number 2?
Yes.
Why?
Because Luis Suarez is not one of the top 20 strikers who played for those two clubs.
Well, I don't believe that.
He keeps telling me, when I was talking to Tony about it earlier, he kept saying, it's longevity, Mike, it's longevity. Andy Gray was only there for 2 seasons. So was Suarez, wasn't he?
No, that's not what he said, actually.
So was
Suarez. That's not what he said. He said that basically it is his list, it is his choice, and it is his alone to be criticised for.
And I'm happy to ignore it.
Well, ignore it then.
He's got the best Everton players, Bob Latchford, number 4, OK?
Yeah. You told me when I came in he hasn't mentioned Bob Latchford, and I had to point out that he was number 4.
Of course
you'd missed it.
No, I didn't. I've been studying this since 6 a.m.
He hasn't mentioned Graham Sharp. You told me you sent a tweet out about it, which I couldn't find.
Yeah, well,
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, well, you don't need to know what's going on, mate, because I'm on top of things.
You sure you're not? I don't think you're on top of anything. I think since your chair was stolen, I think your gyro has been well and truly toppled.
Gary Lineker, number 7. Gary Lineker is he's third now, isn't he? Third highest scorer for England.
Yeah.
He scored 40 goals in one season for Everton. He was only there one season.
All
he scored 40 goals.
All I care about is why
3
Gary
derby
Lineker,
goals in one season. What an outstanding record.
Unfortunately, we're out of time, but what I want to know is why is Gary Lineker not going in to help the poor, downtrodden workers in the Walkers'
What's that got to do with the
factory?
Merseyside Derby?
Well, because it's an important point.
That's in Peterlee in County Durham. We're talking about Merseyside.
The man has the nation's conscience at his disposal, right? He's a man who tugs at everybody's heartstrings and wants us all to take in refugees. He doesn't even want to go up to Durham to talk to the poor, downtrodden workers of Walker's Crisp.
I think this is a ridiculous simile or analogy of what we're talking about. What do you expect him to do then? You expect him to go and...
I expect him to go up there...
free videos of his footballing years or something, because we're talking football here.
I expect him to go up there and be the peacemaker between the management and the disputed workers.
Maybe he's doing it behind the scenes.
Maybe he is. Let's hope so. This is Talk Sport. Talk Sport, we are the 2 mics on the warm-up. The Merseyside Derby is just over an hour away. We're going to go up to Beaky at Anfield very shortly to find out what the teams are going to be looking like. Dazza says this: get Roy Keane on the phone to debate those differing opinions. Early shots fired by Porky. Hashtag Saturday Mayhem.
Yeah.
Most people who disagree with you, I'm not going to read out, but I'm going to read out the one who does agree with you. It's Gordon, who says Cascarino's list should go in the bin where it belongs.
Yeah, that's it, in the bin.
Which is very harsh
to say
cast.
You hear
about one of our fellow broadcasters here at Talk Sport.
Yes.
But let's talk to Matt Jackson, former Everton defender, won the Cup, of course, in 1995.
Yep.
Let's see what he thinks is going to happen. I'm saying 3-0 Liverpool. Matt, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, fellas.
Yeah, hi, Matt.
Now, this is going to be tough for Everton, as good as they are this season under Ronald Koeman. A lot of injuries, going to Anfield, and Mr. Jurgen Klopp has got some record against Everton and at home this season. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I don't expect it to be 3-0 Liverpool, for sure. I think that, as ever, it will be a tight game. It would be great to see both sides at full strength. That's obviously not the case either. And it is a big test for Everton. I've seen some very punchy comments from Ronald Koeman, and he's got a right to say those things because I think he's got the team in really good shape. But it's always difficult when you go away from home, and it's always difficult when you go away from home in a derby.
Yeah, it certainly is. Now, Matt, obviously, the 22 men on the pitch always decide a game in the end, but does this really hinge an awful lot on the ability and the strategy and the nous of the two independent managers?
Not really, because the physical aspect of the game now is such that they send the boys out. They know it's going to be a really competitive fixture. I don't expect this to be won in a tactical battle.
Really? I thought that Mr. Koeman, with his injuries and the fact that they're playing away, and Mr. Klopp has already said, don't ignore the power of the Anfield crowd in this huge new stadium of ours. I mean, there's a bit of a mind game going on, isn't there already?
Well, yeah, that's different to a tactical battle on the field for sure. So they will have those mind games. As I say, I think Ronald Koeman quite rightly is trying to put as much confidence into the side as possible. And if they do win today, it's a fantastic result, and it closes that gap in points between the two clubs.
Sure,
shows it's almost parity. So it's great from that perspective. Ultimately, Everton know that they need to play well as a team, and they need their individual players to be superstars. Now that's really good. But Liverpool they've had poor results. They've done well against the top teams. They've had poor results. And there's always a little bit of added pressure when you're expected to be the favourites playing at home.
I must say, Matt, I'm very, very sitting here in admiration at the calmness that you're showing here, because, of course, everybody knows that, it's the kind of conversation that Graham Souness had before he went out and sort of got sent off, isn't it, when he was telling everyone to be very calm. There must be something about that whistle going at Anfield or at Goodison when this game gets underway, because it's got the most red cards. They're always very ill-tempered sort of games, and logic kind of goes out the window, doesn't it?
It does a little bit, and it's not so much these days, but certainly when we were playing and you're immersed into that Merseyside scene, a lot of the players were living locally, so you're a part of it. You know the families that are affected by it, you know the workplaces that are affected by it, so it really, really means something slightly different from a playing perspective these days with the affinity that the players sometimes have with the supporters. But it's still a huge fixture, and everybody is aware of what it is. And it's not just the whistle, it's that whole build-up period. All week they will have been focusing on that game, knowing exactly what it means to the Merseyside blue and the Merseyside red.
That's absolutely right. Now, Matt, you played in a team where Duncan Ferguson was the talisman up front, in much the same way that Romelu Lukaku is the talisman these days. What are you laughing at?
Because
it's my colleague here.
You're desperately trying to pull Lukaku up into that kind of high level.
So what I'm saying is, Matt, to what extent, I don't mean like in the playground, but to what extent is the plan get the ball up front to Ferguson, to Lukaku, and support that boy in everything he does? He's our potential match winner.
Well, you've just talked about a tactical battle, and now you're just lumping it from the back, are you? So, which
he's a bit confused. This poor kid.
Listen, a long ball delivered by Paul Scholes is a brilliant ball. A long ball delivered by a fullback is supposed to be lumping it up. You can always pass a very accurate 40-yard ball, can't you?
Or are you just wanting it away from the Everton goal as far as possible?
That's a good point as well. Yeah.
No.
No. Obviously, that is the threat. So you have to attack to score goals.
Yeah.
You need to do that. Again, I go back to that physical aspect. Centre halves now, fullbacks used to dealing with long balls. They know the strength that Everton have. Everton know the strength that Liverpool have. Of course, you've got two astute managers, two real scholars of the game who will actually, be trying to negate each other's tactics. But ultimately, it comes down to those personal battles on the field and who overcomes those.
Yeah, and I mean, as we did say earlier, Matt, there is an awful lot of injury problems for both teams. Really, we've got both the sort of Brazilian stars, Firmino and Coutinho, flying back on a private jet from Brazil on Tuesday to get themselves ready for this game. I mean, is it going to depend on who's got more stamina at the end of the day?
Yeah, definitely. And the subs will be very important as well, making those changes. I think going behind in the game early will not suit either side. Having to chase the game down is not easy at all, coming off the back of the international breaks and the like. But it's a fantastic fixture, and the intensity levels will be absolutely immense.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Matt, just look at the Merseyside picture in general. Liverpool have just, rebuilding their new stadium. Everton have got a plan in place for a new stadium. Is this the start of a new renaissance of Merseyside domination? We've got to get back against the Manchester domination over the last decade.
Well, it's certainly getting closer. I don't think it'll be domination for a significant period to come, but it's certainly been a fantastic time, and football in the Northwest in general is in great shape. Football in the Premier League filtering now down into the Championship is in fantastic shape, and obviously it comes down to the money that's available. But certainly the paying public get to see a lot of really good players and some really intense games.
Indeed.
It's going to be a very exciting game. Matt, thanks very much
Matt.
indeed. It all gets underway in about an hour's time. We're going to hear from Beaky very shortly, who's up at Anfield with the team news. Some great tweets coming in that I must read out to you.
Well, I mean, it's great to hear from Matt, but a little bit strange. He didn't seem to agree with an awful lot of what I was trying to tell him.
I think he thought you were a bit of a buffoon when it came to sort of describing the football.
You know, I was putting on a plate to him some of the obvious portents of this
kept
game.
saying no all the time.
I know, yeah.
Strange.
Odd, isn't it?
Yeah, well, he seemed like one of those guys, very calm and considered. But as soon as the whistle goes, you know, he's going to go out there and get himself a red card.
Yes.
Do you know that 7 of the past 8 red cards in this derby have been shown to Everton players?
Well,
which tells you that there's a discipline problem.
No, it shows the huge level of commitment of any boy in blue playing in this fixture.
Incorrect.
That's what it shows to me.
How about this from Dolly? It says, Porky's in a bad mood, snapping at MG about MG's prediction for the Merseyside Derby. Shocking start from El Planco.
No.
Pete says, I genuinely fear for Porky today. His usual level-headed approach to broadcasting has gone completely out the window. Well, he's blinded by the colour blue.
No, I love the level-headed approach, thank you. It's not gone out the window, and I tell you what, that old MG's concentration's completely gone since he found out this morning there's a glut of cauliflowers. They're only 29 pence each, and he honestly said before the show, on the way home, he's going to buy a box full.
Order me a dozen.
And make cauliflower soup tonight.
Absolutely, I'm going to bring some in for you on Monday. How about this one? Old MG's giving Porky a verbal lambasting in the first 15 minutes.
What?
Can't see Porky lasting to kick off.
What?
This is Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. 1 minute moan coming up in the next hour, of course. However, we've got this from Mark in Belfast, who says, good grief, Porky started the 1 minute moan early today by berating the Tony Cascarino list and MG. He's about 30 minutes over the moon. Over the moan time.
No, I didn't. That wasn't a 1 minute moan. That was a point of order. Now, what about this one here? Just got the deal of the week, bought a second-hand chair and got a free Ralph Lauren shirt with it. I mean, this is very, very, cruel, this. The fact that somebody's taken my chair away to fix it, but I'm not sure whether they've stolen it or taken it away to fix it.
Well, you've got to give us an update on this. There may be people who weren't aware of what actually happened to the chair. This has been going on now for about a week, right? You were trying to get an upholsterer earlier on in the week. I'll just sum it up quickly. You got a call from some guy who you then rang back. You got a call from another guy who you then rang back. One of them turned out to be a guy that ran a gym in Sutton. Wasn't an upholsterer at all.
No.
Some other upholsterer,
I rang the wrong number,
Some other upholsterer turned up when you weren't there, and so you weren't able to give him the chair. Then you opened the door to somebody.
Well, I just got out the
Thursday.
shower. I just got out the shower, and I've only got a pair of shorts on. And knock on the door, and I don't usually let people into my place, and they don't usually knock on the door. They don't usually get that far through the building.
Right.
And
I managed to breach all security and get right up to the front gate, right?
I think he must have sneaked in behind the postman or something. But anyway, so I said, hello. And he said, I've come back your chair. I said, oh, right. And I must admit, I'd had a few confusing phone calls in the previous 2 or 3 days. So I showed him in and showed him the chair. I expected him to have a box of tools with him because what had happened is the spring underneath the chair had broken.
Now, when I asked you whether he was wearing sort of a brown overcoat or that sort of, attire that maybe an upholsterer would wear, you said he was just dressed very normally.
No, he had a pair of jeans on and like a sort of a T-shirt.
Yeah, so he's probably not even an upholsterer.
Anyway, he said, give us a hand. I said, what do you mean?
Yeah.
He said, give me... I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm taking your chair.
Yeah.
So he lifted the chair up and I actually... I mean, I
you
might
helped him?
Yeah, I might have been implicated in my own theft.
Yeah.
I helped him negotiate it round the lounge door frame and then out of the front door. And then he said, that's okay, I've got it now.
Yeah.
And he disappeared down the stairs
did he
with
not
my
shout
chair.
as he was going, I'll bring it back on Friday?
Yeah, something like that. I said,
Friday's come and gone.
How long is it going to take? And yeah, he did, yeah.
So have you heard from this guy?
No.
So you don't even know whether he's actually still got the chair? You don't know whether he's an upholsterer? You don't know who he is?
No, I don't know who he is. I have to admit, I don't.
Unbelievable.
A bloke knocked on the door, came in, stole my... Well, I'm not saying he stole it. I hope he's fixing it. But then he disappeared.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how he got to my place or where the chair went.
That's
or
unbelievable.
whether he's got a van.
It's unbelievable.
I don't know.
Lax security on your part.
Well, I was busy doing other things and I didn't...
You sure he didn't take anything else?
No, I don't think so.
You didn't sort of lob your Rolex into his pocket while you weren't looking?
No.
While it was sitting on that thing, reverberating around.
Tell you what, it's worrying, isn't it?
It is worrying. How about this from Derek in Pencoed?
Yeah.
He says, Porky's mocking you because you think Liverpool will win 3-0 against Everton. But the other week he claimed that Everton would beat Crystal Palace 5-2. I seem to remember he was wrong about that.
Nevertheless, we won and got the 3 points, so, I'm not losing any sleep about that one, believe me.
So as long as I get the correct result, you won't be mocking me then. If I say Liverpool to win 3-0 and end up winning 1-0, that'll still be a good plus for me then.
Well, it won't be 3-0, and you've got to remember, the last one ended 1-0, and it was the closest possible game you could think of.
This time last year, it was 4-0 to Liverpool.
Literally, but for a coat of paint on the post, on the goal post, that ball would have not come back into the path of Mane, who then swept it home and scored.
What are you talking about? 4-0 it was the last time they played at Anfield.
I'm talking about the last time with Goodison.
No, well, that wasn't the last time they played, though, was it?
What about old Craig Shakespeare? Now, he's going to make history today, isn't he, if he gets another win? That'll be 4 on the trot.
And he'll be one of only 4 Premier League managers, I believe, to have won his first 4 games in the Premier League.
But he'd be the only Englishman. All the others have been foreign managers.
That's true, yeah.
He'll be the only Englishman to win his first 4 Premier League games as a manager if he extends his 100% record with victory over Stoke City today.
Yeah.
Quite a record.
Well, that's going to be quite a difficult one, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Quite difficult to win.
Yeah, very difficult. But I think the bubble, he seized the bubble when he had to have a bubble, but now I think his bubble could burst very easily.
What, you think Stoke are going to win?
I think it'll be a very tough game for them. And funnily enough, a week tomorrow, I'll be getting on the Rattler, going up to Goodison because...
A week tomorrow?
Yeah, Everton are playing Leicester in the 4 o'clock game.
That'll be a tough one for Everton,
Yeah, it will be a tough one, I agree. Every game's a tough one now when you get to the last 8 or 9 games of the season.
How about this from Martello? He says, Porky's not a real journalist. He deals in opinions, not facts.
I don't. I've always dealt in facts in my life.
Have you?
Yeah.
Alex says this. I was praying Graham Beecroft was going to April Fool Porky and tell him Lukaku was out injured.
Do you think I'd fall for that?
I think you would have done.
Hey, listen, I'm bright.
Have you not fallen for any of the April Fools in the papers this morning? I don't know why they bother.
I hate them. I absolutely hate them, honestly. I think they're rubbish, a waste of space. I don't know why we do them. There's one in the middle of one paper, and it's pathetic because they're trying to say, exclusive, and they've got a lookalike Prince Harry marrying a lookalike Meghan, whatever her name is. Yeah. I mean, if that was true, they'd have put it on the front.
Wouldn't it be great if it actually had happened and they'd actually missed it?
They'd missed it, and they put it on a spread in the middle. It looks dreadful. They've taken up a whole 2 pages on it, and I never, ever liked those things. And one time when I worked when I was Supremo at the Express in Fleet Street, so it comes to April Fool's Day, and this guy in conference one morning, he says, I've got this brilliant idea for an April Fool's joke. I said, I don't like April Fool's jokes. We're not doing it. I want to do it. So he tried to give him do you know what it was? Ken Livingstone was then the,
he was the mayor of London.
Well, he wasn't actually. He was
head of the GLC.
Head of the GLC, absolutely right, which Mrs Thatcher eventually abolished because she couldn't stand the man. And
how very democratic of her.
How very democratic of her. But he was a real pain in the side of all politicians on the left and the right because he was ploughing his own furrow. And this guy said, I know Livingstone very well, and he'll go for a terrific April Fool's joke. And I said, what's that? He said, we're going to say that Ken Livingstone is going to rename London in his own honour as Livingstonia.
Oh, dear.
I said, what? He said, yes, isn't that great? Just like, all the great dictators of the past have always named the capitals after themselves. Leningrad,
Right. I think it was Derek Hill that came up with this.
No. It was Livingstonigrad, I think. Something like that. Right. But anyway, I managed to convince the editor of the day that isn't an April Fool's joke. Yeah. Livingstone will do that if he possibly can. And if you publish this in your paper as an April Fool's joke...
It'll probably happen.
He will then say he's got public support for it.
I know. Yeah. Absolutely shocking. Yeah. I like this from Danny in Hertfordshire. Yeah. It's the definition of hitting rock bottom, having to resort to stealing Porky's furniture.
That's very that is very harsh. Honestly.
I think that's brilliant.
I'll tell you what I was going to tell you about, by the way, because your cooking is gaining a reputation.
It certainly is.
And so
thank you for noticing.
Yeah, well, no, I just see people wasting their time, sending in reviews of all this garbage.
All I can tell you is that people are going to the Two Mikes website, which is twomites.co.uk, picking up on my recipe ideas, and particularly the chicken curry one is going down very well, and they're cooking it, and they're saying it's great.
What do you think about this? This is not apparently it's not an April Fool's joke. It's a taste we've all achieved accidentally, but now supermarkets actually launched a charcoal pizza.
Charcoal pizza?
Yeah.
Well, I've heard of charcoal to cook it on.
Yeah. But, didn't you tell me you'd had charcoal cheese?
I'll tell you, because I was in...
How does that work?
Well, there was a local deli down in Sussex, and I was in there just before Christmas, and, buying a couple of bits and pieces, sort of fancy stuff that you wouldn't normally buy.
Yes.
And they had this black cheese.
Right.
And I said, that looks interesting. And they said, do you want to try it? And I said, yeah. Tasted it, and it was a black cheddar. And I said, well, how's it black? And they went, it's cooked with charcoal.
Ooh.
And actually, it tasted great. It was really good, right?
Yeah.
But what I didn't realise was that as you eat it, it turns your entire mouth black.
Ew.
Completely black.
God.
So you look like the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Well, what would worry me is I thought that only about 2 years ago we were told don't burn your toast because the carcinogens in burnt bread actually give you cancer.
But did you not also say...
So why would you be eating charcoal?
But did you not also say, was one of your journals not correct in saying some weeks ago or months ago that actually charcoal is quite good for you to eat? As a general thing to eat on its own.
Is it? I didn't know
I mean, burnt toast is one thing, but this is actually charcoal, because that's a burnt sort of ember of something else.
Well, that's why I can't stand barbecues. I can't stand the taste of the charcoal.
It's getting round that time, isn't it, now? I mean, I'll have my first barbecue of the year, I think, possibly tomorrow.
I don't go to barbecues.
You say that, but you go to the ones at your sister's house because you're too scared to turn them down.
No, that's not true.
You do.
That's not true.
The automatic awning, what's it for then?
That's to keep the sun off the
and to keep the rain off the barbecue.
And the rain sometimes. But this apparently is something Waitrose are doing.
What, pizza with charcoal?
Yeah.
So what else is on the pizza?
Oh, well, anything else you want to put on it.
So you can put charcoal and pineapple?
Yeah, charcoal is put into the dough. Yeah, it's put into the dough. It says
it's in the dough?
Yeah, exactly, to add flavour and texture. I wouldn't have it, no, thank you very much indeed.
Russ says this, can I ask why Porky always repeats everything that MG says?
What do you mean?
And then claims that MG's suggestions and ideas originate from him.
No.
It's a very good point, though.
No, that's not true at all. Wouldn't it be great to be in Anfield today? Because I think it's going to be absolutely historic for Everton.
Said it's just like every other game.
Well, it is, but I mean, I'm talking about the afterglow. I'm not talking about the build-up to it. You treat the build-up to it as every other game.
I don't think you're going to be much afterglow going on much with you after Everton gets slaughtered.
No, it certainly ain't going to be 3-0 or anything like that. I'm looking forward to that afterglow very much indeed.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
How about this one from Paul? He says, Porky needs one of those pull cords or panic buttons fitted in his house like all pensioners have.
What are you talking about?
For when people start robbing you.
Okay, I see what you mean, yeah. Well, honestly, that kind of nonsense, I don't know.
Look at the time, by the way.
Yeah.
This is Talk Sport.
Yeah.
I bet you wondering how I knew I'll show plans to make me blue with some other guy you knew before. Between the two of us guys, you know I love you more. It took me by surprise, I must say, when I found out yesterday. Don't you know that I heard through the grapevine? Not much longer would you be.
That is a very old song, but still a terrific one, isn't it?
Oh, a classic.
Marvin Gaye.
An absolute classic.
Tremendous. You know, he was shot by his father in 1984 on this day.
It's terrible.
Why are you
isn't
laughing?
It? Well, I'm not laughing really, but
Unbelievable.
he had an extremely active life, old Marvin Gaye.
He certainly
like
did.
a lot of those kind of soul singers from that era, you know.
Yeah.
And
I still got his album that he made with Dinah Ross.
Oh, really?
Dinah Ross and Marvin Gaye. Great album.
The other ones were Ike and Tina Turner. They were the same sort of
Ike and Tina Turner,
people, Tamla Motown, all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And
I don't think they were Motown, but they were. I know what you mean.
Yeah. But they're a very lively crowd and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? But whenever I see reruns of The Sopranos, it always reminds me of the same thing.
Why?
Well, he got shot by his uncle, didn't he? His mad old uncle.
Who?
Tony Soprano.
Tony Soprano.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but it's like a different circumstance.
Well, yeah,
It's just mad old uncle was not really all there.
No.
Didn't realise that his
Marvin Gaye's dad wasn't all there. He was high on substances that
incorrect.
That drove him mad.
No, you got it wrong. No, it was Marvin Gaye who was high on substances, and his dad actually thought that he had to shoot him in order to safeguard his own sanity and to safeguard his own health.
You would only do that, believe me. You shoot your son if you yourself were on some sort of situation which you'd lost your mind for.
No, you've completely got it wrong.
No, I haven't got it wrong. I don't get things wrong.
Yeah, Marvin Gaye was crazed on drugs.
Yeah.
He'd been smoking crack. He was paranoid. He was violent, and so he had to be stopped because he was attacking his own dad.
Yes,
and his father was terribly mortified by the whole thing.
Well, his father should have called the police because
you couldn't call the police.
It's a last resort to say, I think I can sort this problem out. I won't call the police. I know what I'll do. I've got a gun. I'll shoot my son dead. That's rather a severe way of trying to sort out a domestic crisis.
Well, it is, but it was a rather severe crisis, and I think that's the problem. Is that you can't really imagine what that would be like until such time as you actually have to face it yourself.
Absolutely,
you know? And so it was the end of Marvin Gaye, but sadly, because he was only 44 years old, I mean, he had already kind of ruined himself by all the drugs that he had taken. That's the tragedy of it.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it terrible the way that people's lives just disappear when they get into that sort of world? The other one I was reading about just yesterday, and again, a terrible tragedy of despair and decline and eventually death was Whitney Houston.
Yeah.
She was kind of the female equivalent of Marvin Gaye.
Well,
in that she
completely
lost
She became a big drug addict, yeah.
Yeah, she did, yeah, completely lost any sense of reality, and as you're absolutely right, and then she drowned in a bath in the end, didn't she? Because she was too dosed up with, whatever she was taking, yeah.
Yeah, too much. It was crack again, I'm afraid. And, the terrible ills of being addicted to cocaine.
Absolutely.
Dreadful business.
Yeah.
Now, lots and lots of tweets and texts coming in, of course, because the Anfield game, very, very close indeed, just about a quarter of an hour away.
Yes.
Porky, very, very excited about it, and people are
calm,
wondering...
though. Calm.
You are quite calm. Yeah. Ian in Shenzhen says, looking forward to watching the derby, but listening to you guys to hear Porky collapsing as the goals go in. So people are looking forward to hearing some bad things coming out of you.
Well, they won't, honestly, because I'm going to be completely measured about the whole thing. And anyway, game's not decided in 30 minutes, which is what we will take in of the game during the rest of our show, the two mics.
Yeah.
And you won't hear me panicking or anything like that. Don't worry about it.
There's lots of pictures of dodgy-looking chairs being put up, and a great one here from Emily, who says, basically, eagerly awaiting next week's Postman Pork for the inevitable ransom note for Mike Parry's chair.
Yeah, well, I can tell you something, pal. I don't wilt
Ali
easily.
says,
so
have you checked
eBay
eBay for armchairs in the under £15 section?
Somebody's
Somebody's actually put one up as if it was your picture on eBay.
That's very unkind. The chair cost at least £700, but I think it costs a lot more than that. And to replace it will now apparently costs about £1,100.
£1,100?
Yeah. Well, you were looking through old chairs the other day, and you found the price. There's one which is identical to mine, which is for sale at £1,400, and I might even have to go that far and do that to replace it. But I'm pretty sure that I've got it right, and I'm pretty sure I'll be getting it back.
Well,
so it's not a
Tom
problem.
says, my 9-year-old daughter wouldn't have let that false upholstery chap in the house. I bet Porky takes sweets from strangers as well.
Don't be ridiculous. Now then, the situation in Liverpool will be electric. Absolutely electric. When these sort of games happen, the city centre's all very quiet and all that kind of stuff, because if you're not at Anfield, which now takes about 52,000 people, and this will be the biggest crowd that the Premier League has ever accommodated for an Everton-Liverpool game, because Liverpool's ground has expanded. Right. Having said that, 78,000 once watched them in the 20s and 30s, you know?
Well, I mean, we were saying the other day on the quiz that there was one game, wasn't there, where they watched it on a big screen in one place.
Well, funny enough, in the quiz, you asked me who scored the goal in the fifth round of the FA Cup in '67.
Yes.
Well, that Alan Ball whisked that across his eyebrows to beat Tommy Lawrence in 1967 in the fifth round.
Yeah.
And that was the first ever game that was transmitted, because that's why they had it at night.
Yes.
That's why they moved the fixture from the afternoon, because all games were at 3 o'clock in the afternoon then.
Right.
They moved it to 7:30 kick-off at night, because they put big screens up at Anfield across Stanley Park.
Right.
And that was the first game ever transmitted by closed-circuit television.
Simulcast,
And therefore,
altogether about 105,000 people watched it.
Well, in those days, of course, it was all standing. So Everton's capacity was nearly 60 and Liverpool's was 40. And you're absolutely right, there was 100,000 people watched it. And Everton, as I say, got through 1-0. Do you know what happened in the next round?
No.
We were the cup holders, and we'd beaten Sheffield Wednesday 3-2 at Wembley the year before. The very famous cup final where we were 2-0 down and then won 3-2. So we then became favourites to retain the cup. We went to Nottingham Forest, and a bloke called Ian Storey-Moore.
Oh, yes.
Do you remember him?
Yeah, I do.
He put us out because we were 2-1 up, and then he hit 2 late goals. I think he hit 2 late goals. He certainly scored against us, and we went out.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Now, just for a little bit of balance, I've got somebody with an Everton badge as their Twitter handle, and it looks like Will Kick is their handle. But he says, Porky and MG, my daughter Charlotte's 13th birthday is today. She loves Everton and the two mics. A win and a shout out from you would be perfect.
Well, I sent Charlotte a tweet last night saying congratulations on entering the realm of teenage
right.
Yeah. And Charlotte, have a very, very happy birthday, my dear, and I have absolutely no doubt that our mighty club will do what they are going to do today, hammer Liverpool, and give you a wonderful birthday, the most memorable birthday of your life.
We shall see. And Sam says, my dad was devastated he couldn't get a shout out last night, so can you wish Neil a happy belated birthday from Sam?
Neil, have a very happy belated birthday. Oh no, hang on, whose birthday is it?
It's Neil.
Oh, Neil,
From
have
Sam.
a very happy birthday. Well, it's not from Sam, it's from me, from Porky.
Well, it's from Sam. He's asked for it from Sam.
Oh, Sam has asked for the shout-out?
Yeah, he's his son.
OK, so Neil, you're getting a shout-out from me, but I'm the Portmeister, OK, but only because Sam has asked for it, OK? But Sam's actually not involved.
Yeah, no, Sam is your son, and that's why he's involved.
Yeah.
This is TalkSport.
OK, right.
just about 10 minutes to go until we get to the kick-off at Anfield. It's very exciting. Of course, you'll be probably hearing You'll Never Walk Alone coming out of the speakers very shortly.
Pass the sick bag,
Alice. You're going to have to listen to it because, the game is at Anfield.
I don't have to listen to it.
Yeah, you're going to have to listen to it.
I can switch my headphones off for good 40 or 50 seconds.
I wish I could do that while you're on the show. But anyway, never mind. We'll be talking to Beaky up there. You'll be keeping us updated as all the goals go in. Let's now, though, talk to Peter Conradi, our good friend at the Sunday Times, foreign editor, of course. It's another busy old week for the foreign editors of newspapers in this country because, of course, we're no longer part of Europe. Peter, very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Yeah,
so,
hi, Pete.
it never rains, but it pours, really. You just get rid of all the Trump stuff from the American election, and suddenly here we are having a row with the people of Germany, of Spain, of Italy. Gibraltar's up for grabs.
You mean the Europeans?
Well, you call them Europeans. I don't call them that anymore because we're still Europeans. We're just not part of the European Union.
No, they're Europeans.
Do you mind if I talk to Peter
Please
about
do.
this? Peter, I'm sorry. Do jump in at any time.
Well, we could call them continentals, couldn't we?
Of course
Well,
we could.
that's the old word that Porky likes to use. He still likes to refer to the continent as the continent, which I suppose we can go back to.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, Pete, the continental drift is nothing to do with, the plates in the sea or land and all that. The continental drift are those bozos over there moving further and further away from the path of truthfulness in this country.
Now, you say that, but let's talk about Gibraltar just to be serious for a moment. I mean, is there any likelihood that there could be some dispute over this?
Well, there is. I mean, I think what we've seen this week is that some of these potential problems, coming to the surface, and Gibraltar is one of the most obvious ones because, as we know, the Spanish have had their eyes on it ever since we seized it all those years ago. And it's the problem with as the whole EU negotiations are going to reveal is that it's basically us against all the other EU members together.
Isn't it going to be 2 years of
each other?
Isn't it going to be 2 years of a lot of sort of handbags though, and then suddenly two days before the deadline, everybody's going to get serious and go right. Here's the treaty.
I think it probably will. I mean, that's how the EU works. I mean, I remember years ago I used to be a correspondent in Brussels following all the kind of the talks on sort of farm prices or all this other kind of stuff. And they would just all sit there all through the day, all through the night. And then when they were all finally about to drop, they would do a deal. And they go to bed and they'd come back the next day and wonder what on earth they'd signed.
Pete, how strong is our negotiating position on issues like, for instance, the City of London, which is still paramount in the world, and GCHQ, which we can be very proud of? We can't be proud of the way we've let our military run down, but we can be very proud of what the intelligence services do in this country, and Europe want a bit of that, don't they?
They do indeed, yes. I mean, we've got hugely well-developed security services, and, we need... they need access to our security stuff. By the same token, we need access to their security stuff. We need to be part of Europol or the information that's exchanged through there. We obviously have this special relationship with the English-speaking world, the sort of so-called Five Eyes agreement with America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and so on, which is another kind of a conduit. So, I think... ultimately, I know that the whole sort of security thing blew up a little bit earlier in the week after Theresa May mentioned it. I think there is going to be some kind of global settlement, obviously, at the end of it. But I think what Gibraltar shows is there are going to be a lot of bumps in the road, and that we've got to bear in mind that we think we've got a lot of cards, but they've got a lot of cards, and there's an awful lot of them. That's the problem.
When you worked in, sorry, Mike, when you worked in Brussels, you didn't work with Boris Johnson, did you, Pete?
No, I narrowly missed Boris. Actually, I arrived about a month after he'd left, but Boris was still very fresh in everyone's mind there. Some of the stories that he'd written when he was there working for the Daily Telegraph were fondly and not so fondly remembered. Some turned out labelled away in the fiction section.
I was going to say some turned out to be a bit dodgy, didn't they?
They turned out. There was a wonderful story that he wrote about plans when they discovered that the European Commission headquarters was full of asbestos, and he wrote a wonderful front-page story suggesting that one of the plans under consideration was to blow it up.
Yeah, brilliant.
That would have been the Boris dirty bomb, I think. Needless to say, that was a little bit...
and of course, now he's in a far easier business to make stuff up and get away with it than newspapers.
Exactly.
But we're all in safe hands with Boris.
Exactly.
I think,
now, what about the French presidential race? What's going on there?
Well, the French presidential race is interesting. I mean, it's I can wholly recommend, as ever, that your listeners buy the Sunday Times this weekend, not only because it's got an exciting new, completely redesigned, but also because we've got an exclusive interview with Emmanuel Macron, who, although probably not a lot of people have heard of him, he's probably the guy who's going to be the next French president. You know, we had great access to him. He's a fascinating guy, only 39, very interesting private life, not least because he married his former school teacher.
I love the
still
French.
Together, and she's 17 years his senior, which is quite rare in the world of French politics.
Okay.
It certainly is.
Listen, Peter, let me just interrupt Peter for a second. We'll come back to you in a sec. Let's just have a listen to this.
Why?
What's this?
Excuse me, I'll just switch my
match.
I'll just switch my headphones
you
off.
can leave
Excuse me.
Have a listen to this.
I can't hear anything. What are you listening to?
Fantastic, isn't it?
I can't hear anything.
One of the greatest events to ever be at.
I'm sorry. I'm not listening. Whatever this drivel is that you're listening to, turn it off.
Porky is currently foaming at the mouth. Call for the defibrillator.
I can't hear anything.
Go on, sing along.
No,
sing along.
I can't. I don't even know what you're listening to.
With hope in your hearts, and you'll never walk alone.
Da 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 da
That's it.
da.
Thank you very much indeed. Let's go back to Peter. Peter, sorry about that. Just a little bit of Liverpudlian excess there going on. Do carry on.
Song.
Yes, wasn't it great? Very uplifting.
Very nice, very good.
Yeah, sorry. Anyway, you were saying you've got a great interview with the French prospective presidential candidate. Anyway.
Yeah, you should be playing the Marseillaise now.
Yeah, we should. We do a bit of that.
Some accordion music.
Mr. Putin is trying to fund the French election, isn't he? From what I'm being told this morning.
He doesn't get involved in that sort of thing.
He's trying to fund Marine Le Pen, the far right candidate. I mean, not as far right as she was. I suppose it's rather like sort of the French UKIP.
What an irony, isn't it? That the greatest communist bloc in the history of the world is now funding the far right in France. Unbelievable.
Well, it is, but they're not communist anymore.
No, exactly.
They're nationalists, and they like people. They like people on the far right. They like Marine Le Pen. They like the far right in Germany. They probably quite like Nigel Farage, I suppose. I mean, we can't call him far right, but they like people outside mainstream politics.
Yeah, he does a bit of the l'amour, the way the French like it, doesn't he, Farage, at the moment?
Well, I think he'd like to say that, but I'm not sure we're going to pay too much attention to that. Peter, listen, we've got to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. Have a great weekend. Peter Conradi from the Sunday Times. There's going to be loads of good stuff in the paper tomorrow. Don't forget to go and pick it up. This is Talk Sport. 4 minutes into the Liverpool-Everton derby. Nobody's been sent off. Nobody's been red-carded. Nobody's been yellow-carded. Nothing terribly exciting's happened yet, but it's all going on. We'll be bringing you all the goals as they go in later on at 1 o'clock, of course, with Adrian Durham, who's up at Vicarage Road for Watford Sunderland.
Yes.
Adrian, very good afternoon to you.
How you doing, lads? All right?
Very happy to have...
I'll let you know in 90 minutes.
Yeah, he's looking a bit green around the gills, as we used to say.
I think that's because he listened to your singing, MG.
It was good, wasn't it?
No, it really wasn't.
Horrible.
I thought it was great.
Wasn't.
I thought it was great.
No.
Listen, don't you start criticising me, or else I'll have to reveal some more secrets about you. Like, for example, that you are now apparently refusing to call the MK Dons the MK Dons, I'm hearing.
Yeah, they're Milton Keynes.
What sort of rubbish is this?
Well, they stole the name from Wimbledon. I think what I want is for everybody to move on from it, because I'm actually
so
a bit
by
sick
not
of
calling them the Dons, that's moving on.
Well, the only way that Wimbledon will be able to move on and let go of it is if MK drop the suffix Dons from their name.
What? So if they kowtow to people who are not, in fact, in favour of the free market?
Come on, you know. Mike Parry, right?
Yes.
If somebody came in, bought Everton Football Club and decided to move them to Manchester, how would you feel?
Well, of course, that will never happen because of the
No,
size
exactly,
of the club. But the thing is, it will all change again if they resurrect a new stadium back in Wimbledon. And then they can genuinely say, forget it. There is now another location to where that nom de cleur is attached. You
Nom
see
de
what I mean? Yeah.
Nom de what?
Nom de cleur.
Nom de cleur?
Yeah.
Sorry, no idea
sorry,
what he's
don't
talking
get
about.
that piece
Well,
of
Adrian Durham knows.
What's a nom de
He's had a
cleur?
university education, the one that you copped out
No, he went
on.
to Hull, didn't he?
Oh, was it?
He's
Not a real university. Anyway, that's
not,
enough of
no.
that. Oh, there's a
will
goal
listen
at
to you one
Anfield. Liverpool have scored. For heaven's sake. Sorry, Adrian, we've got to go. Beaky,
Liverpool 1, Everton 0, and it was a fine individual goal by Sadio Mane, who picked the ball up.
You've now bitten the entire nail off his left thumb.
It's very early days.
It's early days,
It's only 7 minutes
3-0's looking pretty good now, isn't it?
No, don't be ridiculous. It's only 7 minutes into the game.
8 minutes in, they're 1-0 up. There's another 80 minutes left.
Oh, really? Oh, you've watched so much football that you know that when you score after 7 minutes, you get another 2 goals, do you?
Look how nasty he gets.
You brickhead.
Now it's time for this.
How long has this been going on? How long has this been going on?
That music, of course, signals one thing. It is time for the 1 minute moan. I'm not sure whether the timing of this is good enough because obviously you're now a bit rattled, having gone 1-0 down. But would you like to go first with your 1 minute moan?
I'll go first with my 1 minute moan.
Let me give you the starting clock right now.
Now, my 1 minute moan does actually relate to the game that's going on at the moment, the biggest current game in the footballing world. That's Liverpool versus Everton. What I think is despicable is that the actor Daniel Craig turned up. He is also known as, of course, James Bond. Now, he turned up and turned up in support of Liverpool, even to the extent where he took his hat off and started mouthing some of those words to that outrageous song that the Liverpool club and fans stole from the musical Carousel. They haven't got an original thought in their head, so they nicked it from somebody else.
Shocking.
In fact, it was first stolen by Jerry Marsden of Jerry the Pacemakers.
Gerrymandering.
And yeah, absolutely. And then stolen by Liverpool itself and the Liverpool fans. It's outrageous that Daniel Craig turned up, and I tell you why. Because James Bond is owned by this nation. Daniel Craig might be, his own two-bit actor.
He's from Chester, isn't he?
Yeah, he's from Chester. That's why he's at Anfield today. He's his own two-bit actor, but he has taken on the mantle of a national hero, James Bond. It is outrageous.
That's it. It's finished.
It's outrageous
You're done.
to attach James Bond to Liverpool.
It's done. So it's all right for you to support a club from Liverpool when you're from Chester, but it's not okay for him.
But he's taken on the mantle of James Bond.
No,
James Bond's a fictional character.
He hasn't gone there as James Bond.
He's a hero worldwide.
He's not gone there as James Bond.
Everybody thinks he's James Bond.
Yeah.
And
no,
James
only
Bond,
you think he's James Bond.
And James Bond does not support Liverpool.
No, only you think he's James Bond.
Everybody knows he's James Bond.
Well, who does James Bond support?
James Bond didn't support football at all. He was an international spy master.
Excellent. Well, haven't you forgotten now that you have to do something?
What?
Haven't you?
Oh, right. Now
I'm self-absorbed.
No, it's
There's no idea that this is a show with 2 people on it.
Right. Now, you've got to give your moan, and it better be as good as mine, otherwise you're going to lose.
It's already 9. I think it's 10-3. So, I mean, mine have been consistently better than yours.
Anyway, are you ready?
I am ready.
Is your mouth suitably exercised?
It is indeed.
Right. Okay. Let's go.
Now, my moan is not about one single subject in terms of Liverpool Football Club or in terms of James Bond. What it is about the ludicrous nature of the way that we live our lives. And why we don't do anything about this, I will never know. But because it's April the 1st, we've apparently got to put up with a whole load of prices going up for no apparent reason. Going up council tax, going up water bills, going up the TV
licence.
enough
money.
Going
what are you
up
about?
Vodafone mobile charges, going up BT Infinity broadband charges, going up first-class stamps, going up second-class stamps, going up the cost of an NHS dental checkup, going up prescriptions, going up small parcels. Why on earth do all of these prices have to go up? There is no earthly reason. Just because we've somehow left the European Union and people are blaming Brexit,
what about the working class?
No excuse. Well, the working class are having to pay more money for all of these essential services.
It doesn't affect
Why
you.
should we pay more for a TV licence? Why should we pay more for water? Why should we pay more for council tax? Why should we pay more for electricity?
It's about 30 quid a month to you.
No, it doesn't matter.
That's half a bottle of champagne.
It's an absolute scandal. It's going up by £110 a year. That is not on. Thank you. That's my moan.
£110 a year. You're moaning about £10.
I'm moaning on behalf.
Month.
I'm moaning on behalf of other people, not on behalf of myself.
Oh yeah.
People who cannot afford these kind of increases should not have to put up with them. It's a shocking state of affairs.
Great philanthropist.
I am one of the great philanthropists. I am the proper man of the people.
I know who's won that one.
What's the score? Let's have an update on the score at Anfield, please, Mr. Parry, before we stop.
No, I'm not updating anything.
Why not? Give us an update on the score. We're doing a show.
No.
I need an update on the score.
There's no need to.
All right, we'll go to Beaky then. Beaky! It's a big weekend of sport on our sister station, TalkSport 2. We've got live coverage of Man United taking on West Brom in the Premier League today from 3. And there's a triple header of La Liga action with Malaga facing Atletico Madrid today from 7, followed by Real Madrid versus Alaves and Granada versus Barcelona on Sunday.
Yeah. Do you know there's another great fixture today?
Yes.
Which I can relate to in a big way.
Uh-huh.
And it's my hometown team, Chester.
Oh, yeah.
In Torquay.
Is that right?
Now, can you imagine that journey, in the old Chester coach?
I can.
I mean, whatever time they got in the coach this morning, or maybe they went down yesterday and stayed overnight, that is a horrendous journey. Now, the last time I made that journey...
Right, Chester to Torquay.
Chester to Torquay.
Yeah.
I've already told you about it. It's when we went on holiday to Torquay. And we went in my mate Kev's Mark 1 Cortina, right... And it never made it back. I mean, it just wrecked it.
We just left it there.
Well, halfway back it broke down. We left it in the garage. We've never seen it since because it was about 20 years old then. You know what I mean? And it was on its last legs.
And I bet you there were some atrocities committed in Torquay as well.
Oh, well, it was the...
we can't go into those. It's a family show.
I've already told you, it was the year when I used the chat-up line about Elvis being dead.
Oh, yeah, OK.
Because we got there,
So
we were
6 then?
Yeah, that's right. We were there a few days, and all of a sudden, the news came out. Yeah, Elvis was there. What a pickup line that was! Because of course there were no mobile phones in those days. There was
they couldn't check.
Nobody had screens in bars that told you what was going on. So I used to tap young ladies on the shoulder and say, "He's dead," and they would say, "Sorry, who?" I say, "Elvis." What? And they'd dissolve into tears, and then I'd comfort them, and they'd think that I was a really nice bloke, because
which of course, just by telling that story, you've revealed that you're not. Still 1-0 up at Anfield, of course. 20 minutes gone, and my prediction of 3-0 looking pretty good. However, I can reveal in a dastardly way, you appear to have won the 1 minute moan, and there's only one reason for that, right? The one reason for that is actually two reasons for that. One, the producer is an Everton fan, and when I was already watching him wince as I was singing "You'll Never Walk Alone," so I think he'd already marked my card. It wouldn't have mattered what my moan was about. It was far more interesting about the general problems of the populace of this country.
Boring. You do that every week. You always moan about money.
I don't moan about money every week. That's not true. I don't. No, you're the one that moans about money when it affects you. I'm moaning about the fact that everybody's ordinary bills are going up, and we're all supposed to sit here.
£110 a year.
No, that's just
you spend that on a bottle of champagne.
That's just the power bill.
But that's the hypocrisy. That's the hypocrisy of your 1 minute moan.
No,
I'm thinking about everybody else.
I am thinking about
how
other
much
people.
money do you give to charity?
How much? I can't reveal that
because you don't give any.
I give loads to charity.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
I think that is an untruthful
statement. I give loads of money to charity. I do.
Oh yeah, well name one then.
Well, I give money, for example, to the Epilepsy Society of Scotland, which is they know me very well, and they will be more than happy to tell you that.
When did you last give them any money?
I gave them money last year when I give them my charitable donation comes around Christmas time. Epilepsy Scotland.
I don't believe you.
Well, you don't have to believe me. I don't care whether you believe me.
I think that's a little rubbish.
There's also Nordoff Robbins in Scotland that I give money to.
Oh, why? Sorry, why are you funding Scottish charities? Why didn't you do something to your fellow Englishmen?
Well, because they are my fellow Britons, actually. And when I was in Scotland, I was approached by these charities because of my very sort of worthwhile and influential position as editor of the Scottish Daily Mirror to get involved with them.
I tell you, there's one problem that's really bothering me at the moment, okay?
Yeah. What is it?
There's about...
Apart from you being 1-0 down to Liverpool.
It's very early in the game. There are about 600,000 crutches missing in this country.
Crutches?
Yeah, crutches.
Crutches?
Yeah, crutches.
Well, you mean the kind that people you take from hospital?
Yes, and they never take them back.
Yeah, I know. And that's another reason why the NHS should not be funding them.
Well, let me tell you this. It is an absolute scandal. They give people pairs of crutches to stagger out of hospital, right? Some people don't even need them. And then they turn up all over the place. People go around collecting them and flog them and all kinds of things.
Well, where would you buy a second-hand crutch?
Well, you could buy them on eBay. You could buy them in a boot sale.
Oh, yeah.
There's one bloke I know who's got a van full of crutches, which he sells at boot sales. Yeah,
a van full of crutches.
Yeah, I'm not joking.
What sort of people do you know? Has he got your chair in the back of the van?
No, I hope not. I hope not. But I'm not joking. Now people might say, what a strange subject for old Porky to be talking about, missing crutches. But the fact is, it's symptomatic of the massive waste in the National Health Service, right?
Yeah.
Which leads to the fact that we employ consultants to advise people who call themselves healthcare specialists and pay these people like millions and millions of pounds a year to actually make the health service worse than it is. It's a damn scandal, but it is illustrated by the fact that you will find crutches. You go down, some back streets and back alleys and canals. You see crutches lying all over the place.
Well, I haven't seen any lying all over the place, but obviously you live in Stockbroker Belt, Surrey, so maybe they don't need them down there. But I'll tell you what I do see is a lot more people walking with crutches than I ever used to.
Why?
What do you mean, why?
Well, why? Why is that happening?
Because they give them out now more readily than they ever used to.
Well, this is exactly what I'm saying.
Because more and more people are unemployed due to the fact that they are, incapable of working due to some kind of physical problem that they've got.
Yeah.
And they're very, very able to hand out crutches now with great alacrity to as many people as you like.
I'm going to get serious for a minute, right? I saw a picture in many publications this morning of Jimmy Greaves.
Yes.
And I have to say...
That's
I
at
think,
White Hart Lane, right?
It was at White Hart Lane. It was back of the lane. Jimmy Greaves, still Europe's greatest goal scorer, nostalgic trip to White Hart Lane. Now, what I was going to say is, believe it or not, I saw Jimmy Greaves play live at Goodison. He and Alan Gilzine led the Spurs attack, and he's one of the first games my dad ever took me to at Goodison.
Yeah.
And I do think that he's never ever been recognised as, England's greatest striker, perhaps, amongst others. But the picture I saw is a sad one because poor old Jimmy Greaves is in a wheelchair.
Well, he's had quite a serious stroke, hasn't he?
He definitely has, and your heart goes out to a man like that who had such a rare talent and gave so much pleasure to so many people, and who took a grip of his life when he was in crisis because he had problems. We all know that he was an alcoholic. He took a grip of it, and it's so sad to see him there. Great that he's back at White Hart Lane. Great that his family are around him. Just a little bit sad to see Jimmy in a situation where he was. Forlorn.
Yes.
For want of a
well,
better
it's good
word.
to see that he's out and about. Good to see him at White Hart Lane.
Yes.
You just hope that
Yes.
that his recovery continues.
Yes.
And he gets to enjoy more times there than perhaps he has in
Funny
most
enough, I was doing a bit
days.
of research on it, and I didn't realise he was only sort of admitted to the sort of Spurs Hall of Fame type thing.
Well, he had a few,
very recently.
Yeah, he had quite a few sort of problems with them, I think.
Well, it's always sad, isn't it, when a legend at a football club, ends up being in a sort of dispute with them. It can happen.
Well, we had that conversation about Bobby Moore, didn't we?
Well, of course we did, yeah, in West Ham and all that kind of stuff years ago. I mean, I suppose the prime example is Alf Ramsey.
Yeah.
Everybody said the FA just abandoned Alf Ramsey.
Yeah.
Never mind abandoning Bobby Moore, who was the captain. What about the guy who took us there?
Exactly right.
And it's often said there are some clubs, and I think Chelsea's one of them, where I've spoken to players who played for them 30 or 40 years ago, say they still get a hamper at Christmas from the club because they're still on their roll of honour, you know what I mean?
And that means a lot to people.
Of course it does. If you go to White Hart Lane and you go into one of the sort of boardrooms and all that, there's a load of plaques up on the wall.
Boy, Tom Davis, they're getting a bit carried away with his flailing around. He's got a yellow card.
He's getting stuck in.
Well, that's a yellow card offence. I mean, people talk about... I see there was a piece in one of the papers today, sorry to interrupt you, about Chelsea, where I think it was Roy Keane who said, don't give me all this guff about, he's not that kind of player. Every professional footballer has it in him to make a leg-breaking tackle. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I suppose they do.
Now, Parsley Orcs says, you singing You Never Walk Alone made my day.
What?
Thank you very much
indeed. You singing it?
Me singing it, yeah.
Well, how did that make anybody's... How would that make anybody's day?
He said it was great. He also said it's going to be 5-0 to Liverpool.
Sorry, you attach yourself to a football club as regularly as you eat biscuits.
I haven't attached myself to anything.
Goodness sake.
I haven't attached myself to anything.
Oh, yes, you have. You're a Liverpool fan this morning,
I'm not a
because they
Liverpool
were
fan.
singing
Well,
You Never Walk Alone.
I do generally support any team that are playing against Everton because of you.
No,
I've got nothing against Everton. I've got things against you.
You're just the world's biggest bandwagon jumper. I've no respect for you whatsoever as a football
Really?
fan. I've very little respect for you as a man.
I couldn't care less.
And you're...
I'm going off to spend the rest of the day with my family. You, on the other hand, will be going to have a table for one in some local hostelry where you'll sit until you get so completely doolally that you'll start abusing celebrities on Twitter.
Just push off, low face.
See you later.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM, the warm-up with the two mics on Talk Sport.
With hope in your hearts, and you'll never